Meet the Shadowy group that intends to use boycotts to hurt the U.S. economy and make President Trump look bad, Michael Snyder reports. You have got to be pretty sick to want to damage the U.S. economy just so that you can make President Trump look bad. Whether you agree with President Trump's policies or not, we should all want things to start moving in a positive direction. For the past several years, economic conditions have steadily deteriorated, and now we are at a real crisis point. It's literally going to take a miracle to turn our economic momentum around, and there are those that want to make this task even more difficult by purposely sabotaging the system. On February 28, a shadow group known as the People's Union is planning an economic blackout for 24 hours. Consumers are rallying to speak through their wallets or lack of spending as a way to protest the retreat by some companies from DEI initiatives and President Trump's actions to eliminate federal DEI programs since taking office. They're calling on consumers to boycott specific retailers and for one day later this month to refrain from spending any money at all. Numerous social media accounts are sharing the message of a 24-hour consumer spending blackout planned for February 28. Consumers are encouraged not to spend money in stores or online for a day, and if they have emergencies or essentials they need, they are encouraged to support a local small business. By giving this boycott an excessive amount of coverage, the mainstream media is going to greatly increase the impact that this boycott has. The People's Union is also planning another economic blackout from March 7 to March 14. That one will specifically target Amazon. And the People's Union economic blackout is on February 28, and the group is also staging an Amazon boycott from March 7 to 14. During the economic blackout, participants are pledging to not make any purchases either online or at brick and mortar stores. Of course, there are many Democrats that had already pledged to spend as little money as possible while President Trump is in the White House. They hate him so much that they're willing to cause pain for the entire country just so that they can make him look bad. Sadly, this is happening at a time when thousands of retail stores are already shutting down. As I discussed earlier this week, over 7,000 stores permanently closed last year, and it's being projected that 15,000 more stores will permanently close in 2025. Every day there are more headlines about our ongoing retail apocalypse. For example, we just learned that Joann has decided to close approximately 500 stores. Now Joann has confirmed that it plans to close 500 of its roughly 850 stores nationwide. This was a very difficult decision to make given the major impact we know it will have on our team members, our customers, and all of the communities we serve, Joann said in a statement to USA Today on Wednesday. A careful analysis of store performance and future strategic fit for the company determine which stores should remain operating as usual at this time, and Walgreens continues to push ahead with their plans to shut down more than 1,000 stores by 2027. Walgreens is pressing ahead with plans to shut stores. The struggling pharmacy giant previously announced plans to close over 1,000 stores by 2027. The latest scale-back doomed 5 locations in California. Store managers in Whittier, Los Angeles, Orange, Placentia, and Stanton, California, received notice that the stores will permanently shutter. Needless to say, this is not normal. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, we learned that the official rate of inflation has started to tick up again. Inflation perked up more than anticipated in January, providing further incentives for the Federal Reserve to hold the line on interest rates. The Consumer Price Index, a broad measure of costs in goods and services across the U.S. economy, accelerated a seasonally adjusted 0.5% for the month, putting the annual inflation rate at 3%, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported on Wednesday. They were higher than the respective Dow Jones estimate for 0.3% and 2.9%. The annual rate was 0.1% points higher than December. President Trump is going to try to do what he can about our raging cost of living crisis, but certain things are out of his control. The worst bird flu crisis in history is wiping out egg-laying hens from coast to coast, and as a result, egg prices jumped more than 15% in just 1 month. Egg prices are soaring. However, eggs have been hit by a spike in cases of bird flu, which affected more than 19 million egg-laying hens in January. Egg prices rose 15.2% since December, the biggest increase since June 2015. The food index jumped 2.5% annually. I noticed that Waffle House just instituted a new 50-cent per egg surcharge due to the nationwide rise in the cost of eggs. Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat from Maryland, said. They said that's going to be a new surcharge, and other restaurants are following suit. This is a huge story, and I believe that is just beginning. Unfortunately, many Americans don't understand the seriousness of what we are facing because the numbers that we get from the government tend to greatly overstate our economic performance. One man that understands this very well is Eugene Ludwig. He's the chair of the Ludwig Institute for Sharing Economic Prosperity, and he once served as a U.S. Comptroller of the Currency. He is an expert in this field, and he just authored an article that discussed the growing disconnect between government statistics and economic reality. Before the presidential election, many Democrats were puzzled by the seeming disconnect between economic reality and reflected in various government statistics and the public's perceptions of the economy on the ground. Many in Washington bristled at the public's failure to register how strong the economy really was. They charged that right-wing echo chambers were conning voters into believing entirely preposterous narratives about America's decline. What they rarely consider was whether something else might be responsible for the disconnect, whether, for instance, government statistics are fundamentally flawed. And what if the numbers supporting the case for broad-based prosperity were themselves misrepresentations? What if, in fact, darker assessments of the economy were more authentically tethered to reality? I would highly recommend reading the entire piece. According to Ludwig, we are told that the official rate of unemployment in this country is very low, but in reality, nearly 1 of every 4 workers is functionally unemployed in America today. I don't believe those who went into this past election taking pride in the unemployment numbers understood that the near-record low unemployment figures, the figures was a mere 4.2% in November, counted homeless people doing occasional work as employed, but the implications are powerful. If you filter the statistics to include as unemployed people who cannot find anything but part-time work or who make a poverty wage roughly $25,000, the percentage is actually 23.7%. In other words, nearly 1 of every 4 workers is functionally unemployed in America today, hardly something to celebrate. And he is right. We really do have a major economic disaster on our hands, and the government numbers simply do not reflect this. And many Democrats want to make economic conditions even worse just so that they can hurt Trump. Sadly, I have a feeling that economic boycotts are only just the beginning. Our nation is so deeply divided right now that there's going to be so much chaos in the streets during the months ahead. And this is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder and about the author. Michael Snyder's new book entitled Why is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books that are available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 70 Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he's always freely and happily allowed others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.